Do you really want to be the king? Do you want to be the greatest? I thought about this yesterday and today, and this sparked in my mind because, that's in my name, Lion King Zachary. I want to be the conqueror, the greatest. But being the best comes at a cost. And I've dug into, a bit of Oda yesterday, Goda the goat, because he's the king of manga. I think he's also, and somehow, the king of comics. But this life comes at a cost. Comes at the cost of his own health, the loss of his relationships, and the cost of fame. Because he's so famous, he doesn't want to be shown is in his own interviews. Because he doesn't want to be recognized. Because he's so massive that he cannot handle all of it. All of his fans, he can't hold it. There's too much of it. And I say he's unhealthy because he doesn't sleep much. He sleeps around 3 hours a day when he works, and most of the time those 3 hours are split into 30-minute naps when he has time, when he's waiting on people, when his assistants are eating or taking a break. That's when he sleeps because he's always working. There's this one time he had surgery. No, he didn't have surgery, but that's what he's going through right now. But he was such in a pitiful condition. He was sick that he had to go to the hospital to get taken care of, and he was still working in his hospital bed. And Kishimoto, Naruto's otter, came to visit him because he knew he was sick, and lo and behold, when he came around, Oda was working. When he's supposed to be resting and taking care of himself, he's still working. So what do you think Kishimoto, one of his best friends, decided to do? They didn't take his work and put it to dust and force him to take rest. No, he sat down and helped him because he too knows the struggle. Naruto being one of the highest grossing mangas out there, most popular, most famed. Everyone around America knows of Naruto. Even if they don't know him, they sure saw him somewhere. Everyone has heard of him. And he's not even the GOAT. Let me check real quick. How high is Naruto? He's not even in the top 5. Okay, he's number 6, but yeah, that's number 6. Known all around the world. 250 million copies sold. One Piece's 516 million copies sold. Over the double. And 250 million copies is Kishimoto. That's his best friend. Or, a very close friend. So that, he also suffers from that fame, but not even on the same level. Oda must live it like at least twice as much. And I have to say that One Piece isn't that popping in these parts. In America, that shit is kind of low key, it's an underdog. So, to me, you go overseas, everyone knows of One Piece. Everyone knows Goda. I call him Goda because he's a god. To be only sleeping about 3 hours a day and pulling out this masterpiece is incredible. It's incredible. And he's not even on drugs. Because that's a perfect segue to my next king, the king. Who do you think I am talking about when I'm saying the king? Well, obviously, Pelvis Presley. Why Pelvis? Because he used to be called that way because he used to be dancing in a provocative way back then in the 60s or 50s. Anyways, in that time, just dancing with his waist was provocative, was sexual, was demonic. Even though it's just dancing, it's not even sexual in my opinion. It's just dancing. If you don't use your waist when you're dancing, you're not even dancing that hard. You're not jamming. But anyways, even his fame, the king, the man, the legend, came at a cost. He was overwhelmingly popular. When he did his service for America, he went to military. When he went to, I forgot. Anyways, around the opposite side of the world, pretty much. He got out of the plane and people were waiting for him, cheering him on. Dozens and dozens of people cheering him on, even though it's not even his target audience. That's how massive this man was. How can you sustain such fame? Well, when he also did plenty of movies. He did around 3 movies a year at his peak or, lowest, depending on how you see it. But 3 movies a year, most people just cannot go on with that pace. But it's for a reason. He was on meth all the time, or amphetamine. Yeah, methamphetamine. Anyways, he got introduced to this when he did serve the military. Because, you know, in war, most people use drugs to stay awake, stay solid, cut off their emotions. And he got stuck onto this so hard, especially since he had the wealth to provide for it. And even though he was the king, he was the most popular, most well known, he had the money, he had the fame, the wealth, the power, he was led by a toxic ass person, man. His producer was a murderer. He murdered someone in his original country and bailed out, taking a new name and going to circus, managing and just building and amassing wealth. And he ended up leading the king, and he was taking 50% of the profits. Most producers take at best 20% now, and some people think it's a ripoff. The king, the legend, was being ripped off 50% of the revenue. And I say it's toxic, but because not only that, but he was trying his best to make Elvis believe that he needed him, that without him it wasn't possible to be this massive. You know, I'm not saying this thinking that Elvis is perfect and an idol, because I don't think he is. He's human as everyone else. Because he used to date teens, which is pretty fucked up. And you know, everyone knows he died on the throne, but it's not even, from what I've heard, it's not even because of the drugs and overdose. It's literally because he couldn't shit, because he was taking so much drugs and he was so fucked up. I mean, not fucked up, but his whole body was fucked, and he was so constipated and he couldn't shit, and he was just trying to shit, and he got a heart attack and died. You know, I say Goda because he's just a goat. He's not a god. He's just as human as the king is. You know, Elvis just died trying to push out something that he had to do. And that goes right back to Kentaro Miura, who died very young. He was 54, so pretty young, especially for a man this wealthy. And it's crazy, but it's hard to believe, but this man died 2 years ago. Time goes fast. I was only 20 when that happened. You know, and not so long, I'll be able to say that, you know, in a year, I'll be able to say that he's been dead as long as I've known him. It's really sad, because he was such a fantastic artist. Not only was he a great author, but his panels were magic. He was a magician with his pencil. But was he? Because that's why he truly died. He was so stressed with the work he had to do. He was compelled, just as much as Oda, to be doing the best of the best. When we got lucky, he'd pull out a chapter every year at the end, because every panel just had to be perfect, outstanding, immaculate. I mean, just outstanding, blasphemous how good this is. But he chipped his soul for his artwork. His work ethics were probably on par with Oda, a workaholic who has to desperately do the best and be the greatest. Now, I could keep on going talking about artists that are inspiring through their dedication and artwork. I could also talk about Takehiko Inoue. He wrote Slam Dunk, Vagabond, Real, 3 fantastic mangas. Slam Dunk being one of the most well-known mangas ever, Real being the parallel to that story, and Vagabond, just a wonderful story with great lessons, showing a great way of living. But showing a great way of living isn't meant for everyone. You know, Michael Jackson isn't the best example of someone you should be or strive to be. He's a fantastic icon, he's made great music, but the way he was outside of that musical industry was questionable. He didn't ask himself what he had to do outside of work. He just did what he wanted to do because it always worked his way. Elvis couldn't live like that. He had to go out of his way to make a name for himself, because the only person who truly believed him until he shined was his mother. Even when he started to make music, people didn't really think it was good. He was just standard, if even. He was ridiculed at school for being a bad student, and he was treated like that in many ways. He was unsure of what he had to do. Michael Jackson, on the other hand, always had a family, was around the musical industry. He had to be a protege. He wasn't wondering if he could or if he couldn't. He just had to do it. He had the people around him to make him shine. Elvis did it all by himself. And even at the end, he doubted that. He thought his producer gave him everything, made him the symbol he was. You should always strive to do better, but you have to know your own limit, King, because it might just chip your life away.
I used to